Let's talk about marketing in an agribusiness, but remember that this can be translated to any business or marketing venture. So let's talk about the two different types of marketing. One is transactional and one is relationship. So in our transaction marketing, that is a one-time event. It is usually used by bigger corporations and they're trying to make the largest number of sales possible. Their goal is to increase profits and lower costs. Now, relationship marketing, this is where you can find success as a smaller grower. So you're creating a loyal and repeat customer band. Everything that you do is going to promote your business. That's why it's important to have your logos on stuff and that you're kind to everyone that you see. By using this, you're going to retain your loyal customers and they're going to start talking about your business and hopefully you get some more. It's kind of like referrals. Now, let's talk about the steps to defining your market. Now, what we're going to talk about is pretty conceptual. If you enjoy this lecture, then consider learning more about marketing or maybe even doing the marketing CDE because this is where you get to test your skills. So number one, you have to identify your customer base. So who's the greatest chance of becoming your customer? Who would that be? Then, when you find out who that is, what common characteristics do they have? What do they have in common? And how can you tailor those interests into your product or your service? We can also think of our DMUs, our decision-making units. Now, these are specifically people, individuals, or groups who determine how well your business is going to be run. That could be social media, like influencers. It could also be brokers, which are also known as like middlemen. And then it could be local governments. So you're determining who is kind of the gatekeeper of your product into the hands of your consumers. Number three, you want to take your potential markets and further analyze into subgroups or segments. We're going to learn about that in just a second. All right, so segments are specific groups based on some different factors. Some of these include geography, demographics, lifestyle, brand, usage patterns, and product benefits. You can determine these of your customers, pinpoint where they are with demographics in your geography, and then tailor your product and your marketing promotion to these factors. Let's talk about some ways that you can analyze this data. So one is a market analysis, and this is when you're determining your group of people who are willing to become and remain your customers. My personal favorite is the SWOT analysis, which we will be doing as part of our PBM too. You have your strengths, your weaknesses, your outside opportunities, and your threats. They all add up to your SWOT analysis. Now we have our market research. So this is where we determine our DMUs, our potential customers, our different segments, and our target strategies. We're looking at volume, customers, competitors, markets, and trends. Here's the fun stuff. This is our 4 Ps of marketing. This is really going to hone in our marketing sectors and where we need to put our promotional money in order to get the biggest sales. So first we are looking at our product. What are we selling? And what do the customers want? Just because we have fun making it or we think that it's a good product doesn't necessarily mean there's a need for it. That's when we talk about like our supply and demand. One of those things can be our value-added products. So let's say, for example, you're on a farm and you grow strawberries. Well, after each rain, the strawberries get pretty yucky looking. They don't look beautiful and crisp like we see in our photos. But what you do with those, they're still good. They're still edible. You're going to make them into jam or maybe into ice cream. And now you've added value to that product and people are actually going to your store because of your jams and your ice cream. I had that with the farm that I worked at. they sold strawberries and then they got enough money to start making an ice cream shop. And now they no longer sell strawberries and they also keep their ice cream going. We also have our niche markets. So this is where our smaller farms can get the best bang for their buck. I guess this is when they nestle into the market. They find stuff that is specialized. So let's say you are a cucumber grower and there is a market more cucumber that everyone grows. But these other farms, they grow peppers and tomatoes and cucumbers. Well, you find out that there are 3 restaurants downtown that want a specific type of cucumber. It's a little bit crisper, it's a little bit sweeter, and the skin isn't as rough. So you start growing that. And it takes a little bit extra money and a little bit of extra time and energy. That's why the other people don't do it. And now you have your own niche market and you're able to sell your special cucumbers. So for product part 2, here's some different products you can do as well. Your pick your own. Everyone loves your pick your own pumpkin, pick your own flowers, pick your own strawberries because they want to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Well, you can charge a premium for that instead of, say, let's do 15 cents for a stem of zinnias. You charge $1 a stem for them to go pick it out in the field themselves. Same principle with rent a crop. So let's say you've got a bunch of homesteaders in a neighborhood, and they don't really have the land to grow their own produce, but they really want to because they like to can it and freeze it for the winter. So you say, hey, I will rent you out a row of whatever you want, and you will pay for it. And if there's any maintenance that needs to be done, you'll be here and you can help me or you can pay for it. And then at the end of the season, when they're ready to harvest, you can take all the scraps. Agritourism is a great one too. Mainly during the fall is a big one, sometimes in the spring, but probably the interactions that you have had on a farm are because of agritourism. Now, let's talk about the place. So where are we selling this to? There's 2 specific, and I have them right here. One is direct marketing, and if you see this little acronym, I don't want you to get confused on it. What it means is business to consumer, and right here is business to business. We'll talk about that in a second. But our direct marketing, that's when you are selling directly to your customer. You're not going through anyone else. It is you and the customer, usually seeing you face to face. This could be at a farmer's market, this could be online, or maybe at some roadside stands. Now you can have indirect marketing, which is business to business. So your end customer doesn't actually see you. You're going to sell it to a restaurant or a retailer or maybe a grocery store, and then their customers will buy your product. You also have a third option, which is a CSA. This is one of my favorite things to do because I think it shows consumers how hard it is to grow stuff and how grateful and appreciative we should be of our farmers. So the customer is going to buy a share, a quote, a share into the production. So let's say the farmer's planning to grow carrots, lettuce, broccoli for the fall season. Well, they're going to say, hey, can you, for 6 weeks, supply me broccoli, lettuce, and carrots? And I will pay X amount, whatever you want me to pay. And so then the farmer produces all of that, and then they will either send it directly to that customer, like an Uber almost, or you can do a pickup site and your customers can come pick it up. Now, this is good because the customer shares the responsibility and the risk, so the farmer doesn't have to take that whole burden. Now, you can kind of do this in between too. If you don't really have time to deliver stuff, you can do a broker or a middleman. A very famous one is called the produce box. I've actually seen the produce box. My family has ordered the produce box a bunch of times, and it comes with a plethora of stuff. It is such a cool variety, and you get a chance to try things that you usually would never buy at the grocery store. Now, we have to talk about price. So there's 2 costs associated with growing your produce or your service. One is fixed costs. Those are not changing. That is your utilities, that's your mortgage, that's your property taxes, everything that has a set number and you know that it's coming. Now, our variable cost, they can change a little bit. So that could be fertilizer, seeds, fuel, labor, irrigation, things that fluctuate. So maybe one year you won't have to spend so much on irrigation, and then the other year you might have to pay a lot for labor because the plant that you grew was way more intensive than you thought. So factor these in when you're creating your prices for your vegetables. Now, one strategy that people do is to have as few fixed costs as possible. When you're starting out your farm, it's a good idea to rent your equipment and not own it outright, because if you don't have that profit, you might not have the money to pay for that mortgage and it might be repossessed. Now, if I have these both in little asterisks here because it's very important. If you don't get a complaint about your produce and your price and you sell out very quickly, you're probably doing yourself a disservice. Now, this should be taken with a grain of salt because let's say that you don't get any business, you increase your prices and you get a lot of complaints, and your produce isn't much different than everyone else. You need to find that balance, and this is where marketing comes in. And finally, we have our promotion. So how are the customers going to hear about your product? There's advertisements of all kind. We could talk an hour about the different types of promotion, the unconventional and the conventional. But what you need to do is whatever pathway you choose to advertise your products, you need to market the effectiveness, because you could be spending a lot of money on something that doesn't actually end up bringing you any money. You also should be utilizing your free advertising. Like when someone, let's say WRL, makes a special of you that you grow those really special cucumbers. That is press. Even bad press is still press. That's why, like, you see negative comments on Instagram stuff. Well, the reason it's on your feed is because of all of that press. So think about that when you're using your promotions for your products and services. Now, let's talk about our marketing plans and effectiveness. What we want to do is create a marketing strategy. That is the best that we can do. We can only plan and then we can develop and pivot once we do that. But here are some steps that we can do to follow our marketing strategies. Number one, we have to define our company. What is it? What makes us great? We talked about that in our market analysis. We're then going to identify our products and services. And then we're going to define our target buyers / our end users. Who can we sell to? Who is our product going to fill the need for? And then we're also going to establish our market category. Number 5 is we are going to determine our market category, our leaders, followers, challenges, and niche players. So where do we fit in our company as a product, as a service? Are we a niche player with our cucumbers? Are we challenging the status quo? Did we create something different? Are we following what everyone else is doing? Are we growing those tomatoes, cucumbers, vegetables that are all the same variety as everyone else? Or maybe we're a leader and we develop certain different products and other things to call us unique. Speaking of uniqueness, number 6, what distinguishes us from the competition? Why are we better? Why should you put your money with us? That is the questions that you are answering. Number 7, you're going to define the pricing and the competitors' pricing. So are you above average? Are you below average? Are you right in the middle? You will figure that out with your market strategies and your analysis. And finally, you're going to identify the sales channels in which you are sending your products to and how are they getting to our final consumers. Our final thing to do is once we have implemented our sales strategy, we need to test and to also track our sales. So we need to understand what is working and what is not. If it is not working, it needs to be pivoted. It needs to be chucked out the window. Maybe in a few years we can try that again, but for now, it is not. We're going to have to define our benchmarks. So when are we collecting this data? How are we analyzing this data? And then what points make us understand if we are in the red or the black, which means good or bad. One way to do that is to use our customer survey. So maybe at the end of your grocery store visit, the clerk will say, hey, this is a 3-minute survey. If you could take this, that would be awesome. Or maybe you are signing up for something that says, hey, where did you hear about us? You can do the same thing to your customers, like your farmer's market, or maybe you're selling online. You just have a little form at the end. That's an easy way to test and track. So this is the end of our marketing part 1 series. We will be diving into our business and how that relates to our agribusiness in just a little bit.